the COYGIG Pod
on Off the Ball
in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.
Katie McCabe, a huge goal.
I'm very proud of the team's performance.
We're going to go out there to beat them. We're going to try and beat them.
Hello and welcome to the COYGIG Pod. I am not Kathleen McNamee. Kathleen has left me in, I don't know what to say about it, but I do have Emma Carroll from Off the Ball to keep me on my toes, and of course I'm joined by the one and only Emma Byrne for this week's COYGIG Pod. So before we get into all of the WSL action, we had the final showpiece and what caps off a really good domestic season in the Women's FAI Cup final yesterday, where Athlone defeated Shelburne on penalties after a thrilling 2-2 draw. Obviously it's a huge occasion. There was really good promo done for it. I think the weather might have affected the crowd a little bit, but it was up towards the 4,000, so a really good atmosphere was built, and they were treated to a really good game. Emma Carroll, what did you make of it? The drama.
It was drama. It's great, isn't it? To see a bit of, like, it's since 2015, I think, was the last time the cup final went to penalties. Athlone seemed to be the penalty queens this year. Sorry, Karen.
I made them the queen. My penalty is still travelling towards the corner flag, I think.
Yeah, decent game. Exciting stuff. Rebecca Quinn was obviously, or Gemma Quinn even, when she came on as well, made the difference for Shells, although she seemed to tighten up a bit. So maybe she didn't start for a reason. Maybe her fitness wasn't up to levels, maybe. Two great finishes though from her to bring Shells back into it. Athlone get an equaliser, and the way they celebrate, they seem to think they have won it there and then before it even went to penalties. So, and yeah, penalty drama.
Yeah, penalty drama was good. Yeah, I mean, it's their third of the competition. But within the game itself, you'd have to say that Athlone deserved to bring it to penalties. I think they were the better side throughout the game. But again, let's bring our focus to the goalkeepers. Emma Byrne.
Goalkeepers. So I only got the extended highlights. But yeah, during the game, it looked like Athlone were, just better, more efficient with the ball. Looked like they were closing down much better than Shells. Shells were a little bit off the pace. It looked like, when
they allowed to Athlone to settle into the game. They really allowed Athlone to settle into the game. The big pitch, obviously, in Tallaght Stadium meant that there wasn't a really assertive press from Shells, and Athlone, in terms of their possession, have improved significantly since the turn of the season. And yeah, I was actually really impressed by how they moved the ball and how they got third man runs, and I don't think Shelburne really expected that from them.
Okay, yeah, no, I thought it was quite good. The highlights were good. You want to talk about the goalkeepers?
I mean, obviously the equaliser for Shelburne, the keeper parried it out to Gemma Quinn, who was in the right place and really made an impact on the game, Emma, as you say. And then we had a goalkeeper taking a penalty, and the second penalty of the penalty shootout. I remember, Emma, we did the Australia game where the goalkeeper took a penalty, and you were not one bit impressed at that stage. So what do you think of a goalkeeper taking the second penalty?
I mean, I don't particularly like it, and I said on television why. The reason is because you've got such a big job, like actually trying to stop them. Then you have to go and it's obviously a completely different mindset when you're taking them. And then if you don't score, you have to go back in, being absolutely devastated. And you could see Amanda McQuillan like apologising to her teammates, like, what is going on there? Like, what are you apologising for anyway? You've got to go back in goal and try and save the next one. It is, I find it really strange. And yeah, okay, when it comes to sudden death, fair enough, you have to take one. But otherwise, just, you've got a big job to do. Focus on that. And especially if you haven't had a great game, like, I think you have to be confident going in taking those penalties. And there were a few mistakes in the game. I don't think I would have been, as a manager, asking my goalkeeper to take one, but it's one of those ones, isn't it? If she scores, we're all like, oh, that was brilliant by her. Goalkeepers have the technique. They're kicking all day, kicking all week. So, but personally, don't like goalkeepers taking penalties because we have a big enough job to try and save them. So yeah, it was a little bit strange. A couple of mistakes in the game as well. I mean, it's just a contrast really, because in the WSL, we're talking about how good the goalkeepers are and how for once we're praising the goalkeepers. It's the goalkeepers that are winning games. If they make a mistake, like which aren't, there are very few mistakes at this stage in the WSL. The teams are finding it very difficult to recover. To then go and watch the final and coming across these mistakes is a little bit sad, really, but easy things to fix. So I'm hoping those goalkeeping coaches are looking at that game. I know exactly what training I would do with both of these keepers to try and fix them. And I hope that happens because, well, you learn from the mistakes, basically.
Yeah, her head seemed to drop as well after, because the first penalty you could see she was jumping around trying to play the mind games, and then after that, she moved for maybe one of them, but she barely moved for the rest. So I think it definitely impacted her confidence as well.
This is another thing that I wouldn't be a big fan of. All this jumping around.
Who has energy for that?
No, just simply because if you're still that split second, if your feet haven't landed and they take the penalty, that split second stops you saving a goal, basically. And it's the same with anything getting set on a shot or during play or whatever. Always make sure you're set for a strike. And if you're doing that, it can be quite difficult. I mean, it does work for some keepers. You've seen in the WSL, Chiara for Man City does it, and she very nearly got there. But if she wasn't jumping, I wonder if she would have got there. Just those little split-second things make a difference for goalkeepers.
Yeah, and again, you'd wonder if that kind of knowledge is imparted by goalkeeper coaches at club level. So I know you've spoken about it before, Emma, that there's definitely work to do in this country, because if you look at where our goalkeepers have come from since you retired, they've been tended to be foreign-based players. So interesting stuff. But a huge congrats to Athlone on a thoroughly deserved cup final victory. A significant amount of work has been put in by the club since they came into the league a few years ago, and to get silverware at this early stage of their existence is great. Now, the drama wasn't just on the pitch. There was an interview done by Michael O'Connor, the Athlone director of football, after where he said some strong words with regards to League of Ireland funding in general and the support that the clubs are getting. I think it was in a broader sense to do with both the men's and the women's game, but strong words regarding there being no government funding for the League of Ireland, and making reference to the fact that the Minister for Sport, Thomas Byrne, wasn't there, but he could make his way out to Australia, which was good. But he was calling out for them to come and meet with clubs, and his final statement was that clubs are drowning. So there were some really, really strong words. So Off the Ball did contact Thomas Byrne's department and came back with some facts and figures around the fact that Athlone Town has received significant government and financial support to date. 2,850,000 in government funding under the Sports Capital and Equipment Programme was allocated to Athlone Town during the years that the new home stadium was built by the club. In addition, Athlone Town was allocated €200,000 by the government in 2015 for an all-weather pitch, and in 2020, the club was allocated over €250,000 by the government to provide suitable and appropriate accommodation for existing members of the club and in order to increase female participation. Apart from Athlone Town, the Minister says, I've met with a number of other League of Ireland clubs this year, and I'm always happy to engage with them. As well as this, he went again, what O'Connor said, in terms of the funding given to soccer in this country, saying the government support package set out under the Memorandum of Understanding provided for the restoration and doubling of funding for football development to 5.8 million each year from 2020 to 2023. This amount is more than is provided in comparison to any other national governing body of sport. So we don't know what way funding is split. We don't know how things are done by the FAI. Obviously, we know that funding has been suspended due to some more drama there. But I just wanted to get your take on what you thought of those kind of strong words in that clubs are drowning. How do we stop them from drowning? Is it just government funding? Is it directly looking at the funds that the FAI have received and how they're allocated? Big, strong words to come out of that interview.
Yeah, I found it quite emotional actually. I was like, this guy's come on and he's like, this is my platform to say exactly what I want to say. And I loved his passion. And, you know, you've just said it, we don't know how blah, 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 this is split there. So we're calling for transparency, maybe a little bit. Also, he was focusing on the grassroots football, the fact that they had to pay their own way. And this is something that very much is very, very common around the UK and Ireland, that, you know, parents do have to pay for the kids to play, and that's pretty common. And also, why should we suffer for the mistakes of the people before us? But I do think, you know, we do have to give the new regime and the FAI a chance. I would like to know a little bit more about it. I find it very interesting, and now that I'm in there, I'd like to know a little bit more about it. But I do get very positive vibes from the people that are in there now, and it's about trust, isn't it? They do have a long way to go to get people's trust and get the club's trust, but they are trying to do that.
I would say as well is that he did mention Mark Scanlon and the league office absolutely doing their best, but he was at pains to say that the resourcing isn't enough for what we need to get the leagues to the next level in this country. And I think it's very significant for the women's game, as more and more players come into the WSL from outside of England and Ireland. It's getting harder for our girls to come across and make an impact in a really, really high league. We want them playing at a more professional standard, but we want our league to bridge a gap between things like the Championship or other places in Europe. And I think it wouldn't take much, given the growth in participation levels, in the strength of the underage groups coming through. It's a huge amount of young girls coming through, and now is the time to do it. And the FAI's hands are a little bit tied in that because of the funding that they're now receiving. But can the government separate what's gone before to the opportunity that they have now?
Hopefully,
yeah, that's what they have to do. They have to do it. And, you know, women's football in general is a massive thing. We would be one of the only countries that isn't investing in it, to be quite honest. And now's the time, like the back of a World Cup as well. There's so many young girls interested in it. But it's what you say there. We're trying to bridge that gap between the league and then the WSL. But like, also, I'd be calling on players to look on themselves as well. They're going from one environment into the other and really struggling because of, just not working hard themselves at home. Like, you know what it's like. I know what it's like. You have to push yourself a little bit more. And if you don't feel like you're getting in training, you push yourself a little bit more. If you want to get to that level, you have to push yourself, whether it's in the club or whether it's outside the club. And then I'd look at, what are managers and coaches asking from their players? Are they asking for that top standard? Because I think one of the things that our players struggle with when they do go to the UK is that level of professionalism. It kind of like hits them like, wow, okay, this is what I probably should have been doing 2 years ago. So maybe it's just like even just educating what it takes to become a top player.
Yeah.
Because we've got the levels, as in the natural ability, but now it's about producing the players like athletically, or, it's what they eat, it's how they live in general. And I don't know what goes on, but that's one thing that we can help ourselves with as players.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a level of self-motivation. And obviously I played at home the whole way when I was playing international, and you go to the gym on your lunch break, you do those extra bits if you want to make that level. But I do think as well, recovery is a huge part. And some of the girls who were playing from Athlone, they're American girls, and they were the standout players on the pitch for me yesterday. And they're maybe working part-time. and they've gone in and they've started training with the men's team, as well as doing their own individual sessions, their own gym sessions on top of what they're doing with their girls on the pitch. So that's what I see as the next level, giving the girls the opportunity to be able to do those extra sessions, even if it's with a men's team. And that just comes from having a little bit more time. And that comes from funding. So I think that's where that comes into the league. Emma, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, actually, it comes back to one of the things that your manager James was saying on Off the Ball Breakfast a couple of weeks ago about structure, and maybe looking at the IRFU structure and offering some players centralized contracts so that they don't have to work part-time, so that they can focus more on their training and their routines to build that like strength and conditioning, all that side. And I think that could be an interesting avenue. I don't really know if the FAI will go down that route, but his comparison was, we have one of the best rugby teams in the world and all the players play in Ireland. So is there something that can be done to bridge that gap, to keep the younger players here, let them finish school?
That's it. I
but
think
still
it's
offer
the
them
younger
something?
players we really need to kind of focus on, because from what I'm seeing is any opportunity these girls are getting given to train, they're all doing these one-to-one sessions. If anyone in the club offers them an extra session, they're turning up to it. Their parents are willing to bring them. They know that there is a pathway to go professional. They do know that they have to put in the work, but it's putting the structures in place to allow them to avail of the extra help. And like you say, the knowledge on nutrition, the knowledge on strength and conditioning, yes, more can be done in the clubs. At the moment, yes, we're turning into a professional league in theory, but who can employ these kind of strength and conditioning coaches full time, this kind of stuff? It comes back to a bit of funding and how we're going to structure that. But again, I think we could talk about that all day. I think there's a lot deeper that we can go on that. Before we move on to the team of the week, obviously the worst kept secret in women's football came out this week, that Emma Hayes was joining the USA national team. She said she's not motivated by money, which I absolutely believe. So what do you think it is about the US job? Is it still the biggest job in women's football? Because Emma is the most sought after manager in women's football.
I think so. I think so. It's just that they're so prestigious, and nothing about the 2 million that maybe she'll make over. No, I do think so. And you know what? It's a really good time to go in as well. Not just for Emma personally, because international football does allow her more time with her little boy, which is exactly what she wants. But they had such a bad World Cup. Like, they were horrible in the World Cup. They cannot be any worse as far as I'm concerned.
They're not enjoyable to watch, but even still, they used to be enjoyable to watch and got results.
They'd score goals, so everybody likes seeing that. But no, they were really, really poor, surprisingly. So I thought it's a great time for her to go in, because it's only going to get better. And it's, you know, she said to me when she left Chicago and came back to Arsenal, she goes, she said she's never said this on TV, but she said it to me. She goes, I'm going to manage the US national team one day. And we all laughed, you know, whatever. Okay. But that was those, you know, she did set the bar high for herself, and rightly so, because she knew her worth. But it's a great time for her to go. Emma loves the behind the scenes. She likes coaching and things like that, but she absolutely thrives in creating better infrastructures and just things that go on behind the scenes, improving standards behind the scenes. So I think that's going to be really interesting for her, and she'll get to work with top people. And that's one thing the US do very, very well. They get in the best of the best. So, you know, she'll have a staff of like 20 people. And I think she's going to really enjoy that.
Emma, well, doesn't seem like it's affecting her Chelsea team in a negative way. We'll get on to all the action after we get your team of the week. Emma Carroll, hit us with your team of the week.
Yep. Yeah, some obviously standout players from the weekend. I'll get straight into it first though. Leipzig in goal, a back three of Perisay, Carabali and Ashley Neville, Sophie Ingle and Cooney Cross in the middle. Welcome back Ken Zadali, Chloe Kelly, Alessia Russo and Lauren James and Rachel Daly then up top.
Yeah, surprised to see Lauren James in there.
I know, shocker.
Shocker to see her in there. Emma Byrne, what do you think of Emma Carroll's team of the week this week?
I mean, Chloe Kelly and Lauren James were so good. They were so good yesterday. It was just like yesterday and the day before. They were brilliant. Just top class. And to think that they are playing for England, like they're on the same team international level, is extremely frightening, because if they're both on form, they're just easily like the best attacking
Right
player.
in their positions.
Yeah, I think so. Leipzig, you could have chose a few keepers. I think, again, love talking about the goalkeeper. Good performances, but you could have picked Leipzig. You could have picked Van Domp Salar. I thought she was really good as well. She did some really good saves. So yeah, but Leipzig was so good. Terribly was what made me laugh so much. I was doing this game and I had to take my microphone away because she was like, at the start, she was getting beaten up. Like they were just bullying her.
The switch just flicked.
They're so physical, Arsenal. I didn't, until you see them like in person, you don't actually realise how physical they are. And Carabali was like, okay, that's it. I've had enough. Right. I'm just going to absolutely flatten everybody that comes near me. So I really enjoyed that.
I love that from a centre back though.
Yeah, you need it. Well, Brighton need it. They need it massively. I love Cooney Cross. I think she's just such a natural. She could easily go under the radar in games. Like you wouldn't be talking about her too much, but her work rate and
nailed on starter for you for the rest of the season.
She was everywhere.
For me, yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I actually like her and Palova together. I think they work really well. But what are you going to do? Keep Kim Little off?
No, obviously not.
No, you're going to play her. Of course you are. I thought Monham did excellent when she came on as well. Rachel,
and do you think that was proven a point because she was dropped, or you think that was just the game opened up for her?
No, I think she's a great player.
Mm-hmm.
I think she gets in really good positions, but her teammates don't give her the ball enough. She finds really good positions in and around those half spaces in between the midfield, the opposition midfield and defence, and they just don't give her the ball. It's just ridiculous. I think she's so clever, and she's the big difference for Arsenal, I think. Also it helped because Ford was dropping and then dropping centrally, so just allowing that space. Just clever play from Arsenal, which is, I haven't said that often.
Yeah, they were good.
Shout out for Sophie Ingle, who became the all-time WSL leading appearance holder, her 184th WSL appearance. Pretty good going to maintain your place, particularly in a squad as competitive as Chelsea's.
Yeah,
I think a lot of her work goes under the radar as well, and I think she was really good Saturday. So I thought, record appearance, she definitely deserves a spot in there.
Yeah, and a return to the team of the week for Ashley Neville, who we haven't seen for a while.
I know. Yeah, it was kind of an odd weekend for defenders, but I thought she was actually really good and an assist as well.
Yeah. Russo still getting in there for her work rate, I guess, rather than finishing.
I thought she was really good yesterday. She was like linking up everything, and then she gets back in the box and does like a centre back tackle.
That last
like the timing of that was unreal.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny, Emma. I think you could have played in there and looked that good. She was getting nobody was picking her up. She had an absolute freedom of London roll in there. And it was so obvious she was going to do that as well. You're going to play Blackstenius and Russo's going to drop. She does drop anyway, but she was starting there. I didn't understand what Arsenal, like, if you've got Blackstenius on the pitch, you're playing against a high three that are slow. Why would you not play him behind every time? Just play him behind. They played him behind twice and it was very dangerous. And this is another thing I don't get. Like, once something's working, why not just keep doing it? Why? And then if the opposition change, then you can play like defeat and play more through the thirds. But I think it could have been a lot more if they exploited those spaces. But yeah, I thought Kane was really good for Leicester.
Kane was brilliant, yeah.
I was checking her nationality. Playing for Wales. I thought she was really good. I also thought she was very good against Arsenal, but I thought maybe, you need to see more of them. And then that game as well against Spurs, I thought she was very good. So she's interesting. Keep an eye on her.
Brilliant. Well, we will wait and see if they make it into Emma Carroll's team of the week next week. Or are we international break next week, or do we have another week? We have another week. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Emma Carroll, for all your hard work as usual. Now we're going to chat through all of the WSL action from the weekend with Emma Byrne, and I'll begrudgingly start with Man United in front of 43,000 people, their first defeat of the WSL to a very deserving victor in Manchester City. 3 changes for City that I think made an impact that turned their fortune around after 2 losses. Greenwood, Uhabi and Hemp coming back in for City. So Emma, you'd have to say it was the scoreline reflected the way the match went.
Yeah, I thought United were poor. They looked like a team that shouldn't really be winning anything. And you've just said this, their first loss. It was that surprises me, just looking how they were playing. Especially, to be honest, I haven't seen United make many mistakes, but 2 mistakes yesterday that you just cannot afford to do. And it's I think it kind of told the whole story, to be honest, those mistakes. They looked like a team that were tired. Look, they didn't look sharp. They looked second to everything, and they just looked a little bit nearly distracted, which is strange because in a derby you're like, it's...
Yeah, and Mark Skinner did make reference to the fact that they felt like the occasion got to them, whereas at a professional level, you're driving the standards, you want to be playing in Old Trafford, you want to be playing in front of those crowds, and you need to be able to perform in front of them. But the mistakes you're referring to, Zellum caught in possession for the Hemp goal, and Bunny Shaw blocking down Mary Earps after a Letizier back pass. And Man United had possession the whole pitch in front of them before that back pass, and instead of going forward and driving on, they turned back. And as soon as Letizier saw Shaw coming near her, complete panic. So they were panicking under the pressure. They were panicking under City's press, which wasn't even like gung-ho, all guns blazing press. United just gave them the chance to get in on them.
Yeah, no, I don't understand that language about the occasion. No, you're playing against a rival that's probably the best in the league at the moment. I'm going to be like, if I don't get sent off, it'll be surprising, to be honest. I would be like so wound up for that game. And it looked the opposite. So maybe he's saying that maybe there's too much emphasis on it being a derby, and sometimes that can drain you a little bit. But still, I'm not having that. I just think they were...
I don't think it's dissimilar to how the pattern of how they've been playing, though. The wins that they've been getting haven't been hugely impressive where they've been completely dominant either.
No. And you know what? You made changes which changed the game. I thought Lucia Garcia came on and changed it just with her energy.
Yeah.
Things like bringing energy onto the pitch. And, even, the goals, Katie Zellum looked a little bit lethargic yesterday, as we've spoken about that, a little bit slow to do things, and you're not going to get away with that at the highest level. And we've seen what happened in Champions League. I actually thought they did quite well in Champions League considering, but you definitely don't get away with it. And then they're just decision making. They don't you're looking at City's wide players and you're saying they are so threatening, and the back four for Man United were just too narrow at times. They were so narrow. They gave them so much space. I think particularly for the first goal, you had a centre midfielder trying to get back with Kelly rather than a fullback, and it was just so disjointed. Now it was a good build-up play, not to take it away from them, but yeah, I don't know. It's not fully clicking for Mark Skinner's side at the moment. No, absolutely not. There are at least 2 players, I'm not going to name names, but there are 2 players on that team that look very much below par at the moment, look like they're really lacking in confidence. And you can't afford those spaces in the team. They're very important.
Name names.
And I think it's only going to get worse for them, to be quite honest. It's very difficult to claw your way back up if you're low in confidence. But as you said, City were awesome. They've got some players in there that are absolute mustard. And I think Ford just, what a signing, what a clever signing, because...
Yeah, you weren't fully convinced at the start of the season. She's changed her opinion.
I'm still not. She needs to convince me a bit more. But I would love to know how many goals Jill Roord scores through the opposition's legs.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I guarantee you it's way above our average. Way above. That's all I ever see.
Just a weird technique that people think they can block you, and all of a sudden it's gone.
Just shoots, and it doesn't matter if there are players around her. She just shoots. That's the way to do it. You don't shoot, you don't score.
Wise words from Emma Byrne there, everyone.
Cliche Byrne.
Yeah, so City again, possibly on the ascendancy. United, a lot of work to do.
He'll change the team. Talked about Leyla Habi. She had a good game. Why? She probably won't play next game. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, he'll want to give Mary Fowler. I understand why. She's a great player, but it's worked. Why don't you just keep it? Maybe just keep the team that has beaten United, apart from Alexandri, who was just
got herself
her mind.
Yeah. That's another thing. City has disciplinary record this season is not fantastic. Something maybe to keep an eye on. But yeah, we love it. We love to see it. Like, we're all for it. Another team who have been, chopping and changing a little bit, but seem to be on the ascendancy are Arsenal. And a shout out to Katie McCabe, who was voted PFA WSL Fans Player of the Month. She must need an extension on her house for all these awards at this time. But Arsenal again brought a great travelling crowd to Brighton. First start for Beth Mead since her ACL injury. Emma, you were obviously on this game. What were your main takeaways?
Main takeaways. Main takeaways were that Arsenal could be a team that could go and be the best in the world, but still are struggling to play together as a team. And still, for me, they don't have that, I don't know, nearly the murderous play of, they could have been 6-0 up at halftime if they played to their strengths and Brighton's weaknesses. I just feel like they just don't see it or something. I said before, they should have been playing in behind way more. That's why Blackstenius is playing. Blackstenius is one of the best in Europe at those runs in behind, and they never play her. And then you've got Russo, who had so much space. Probably for me, didn't get on the ball enough considering. Brighton did well at times defending, but then they looked like a team that they were a little bit confused of what their jobs were. There was a lot going on there, particularly in the midfield for them. And I was like, don't want to say too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think they improved as the game went on, but even for the Blackstenius goal, she did a pirouette before anyone even got near her, a complete swipe, and still was able to turn around again and ping it in.
Going on?
That is her 6th goal in 9 games. So is she the starting striker for Arsenal, or are we going to continue to see changing?
Listen, I think that Blackstenius has proven that she should be playing, but if I were her, I'd be demanding those balls into the channels, because they're just not playing to her strengths. And then it looks a little bit like she's not involved that much, which she wasn't as much yesterday.
And do you think that's because Eidevall is trying to create a certain style of play, or because the girls don't fully know how to play together yet?
I think that the team has chopped and changed so much that they probably are still in that stage of getting to know each other, which is not ideal at this stage. They look like they want to play to feet, but you know what it's like if it's not working, or you're getting closed in, or you're playing against the Leicester that's playing player for player. Sometimes you have to go long. It's not difficult. You just have to go long to stretch the game, particularly if Steen is playing. She's very, very good. Then you start playing, and because they're stretched, it's if you want to go around, which Arsenal do, they've got the highest number of crosses in the WSL. So they're very good at creating the chances on the outside. they just don't have the numbers in the box. And that's the difference between Arsenal and Chelsea at the moment. I actually think Arsenal play better football, but Chelsea load the box. They load the box, and Arsenal just can't seem to do that, whether it's because the midfielders are playing too deep or whatever. So there's a few things going on with Arsenal, and it just looks like they don't have that player. Like, that is one thing I think Kimmy, more than one thing Kimmy brings to the game. But she's definitely the one to take control. Listen, we need to play a little bit longer here. Or listen, we can play through the centre, then go out wide or whatever. So I still think we're yet to see that from Arsenal. They could have done it yesterday. They should have done it.
A lot of learnings from a 3-0 victory. I'd hate to see what you have to say if they lost.
Well, I said I was speaking to their press officer yesterday, and I was saying, yeah, they're just not hitting the marks. Like, last week was pretty horrific, if you ask me. And you went, we won 6-2. And there are standards for Arsenal.
Yeah, but look, they've won their last 5. They're 3 points off at the top of the table, and of course Chelsea kept their winning streak very much in line after a 5-1 victory over Liverpool. Again, it was the Lauren James show. The midfield was won in the midfield, I think, very early in that game. And Matt Beard said after the match that he felt like Liverpool let themselves down. And it's mad because at the start of the season, we saw Liverpool, after improving, playing much better. And now it's just a little bit inconsistency. You don't really know what Liverpool is going to show up on any given day.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Liverpool has had an unbelievable start. Just a great start to the season. And I think their work rate kind of backs that up, like that's what helps them, their work rate behind the ball. And with Van Sanden coming back in, definitely brings a great attack element. These lot, it's their walkies. I'm going to speak over them. But they're carrying players. They are carrying players, certain positions that is very much the weak part of their team. And big teams, better teams are going to exploit that. And that is the difference. When they play the likes of, the West Hams, the Aston Villas, the Brightons, that's okay. But when you play against the big teams, they can't afford to have those weaknesses. Now, I know they beat Arsenal at the start of the season, but that for me was not Liverpool winning. It was Arsenal losing the game.
Yeah, so, and I suppose we could wax lyrical about Chelsea again. Lauren James just tore them apart. But Emma Hayes as well said after the match that there's something different in the dressing room this year. Do you think that is the case, or is it just Chelsea are so used to winning that they've just developed that culture and people aren't going to get near them? Do you think there is a difference in what you're seeing on the pitch?
I don't think there's a difference really in what they're doing. I think they're playing very similar than what they were last season. The difference is just better quality balls in the box. Players have improved. Like we spoke about Niamh Charles, and she was a player that was definitely learning her trade last season, and she's just gone on to another level. Like it's incredible, really. And you've got everyone hitting the mark at the right time. We haven't spoken about Erin Cuthbert. Why? Because everybody else around her has stepped up and are doing really well. So I think, I think Cannerid is a good example. She was a bench player coming off. Yeah, she's okay. She's really an impact player. She's come on, her crosses into the box, her delivery into the box, excellent. And they know that. So the difference is that they're very confident that they're going to get those balls into the area. So they're just overloading, committing players, and they're just frightening going forward.
Do you think there's a way to stop that?
Yeah, I think their backline is probably their weakest unit. So if you can put pressure on them, try and stop them early on. And if not, you're going to have to buy some quick players at the back, because you're going to be in 1v1 situations and they are very quick. I think if you've got a quick backline, you'll be doing all right.
Very good. Elsewhere, Villa got their second win of the season, which sees them leapfrog Everton, who had another draw. Aston Villa's turning fortune, is that the Dali effect?
What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to talk about her, to be honest.
What do you think? Of course it is. They're a different team. They look like different players when she's on the pitch. And that's how you know a world-class player, when she makes other players around her look good. Just her heat map alone, like, she's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, the French players generally are good technicians. We talk about them in clinical finishers, but her work rate's incredible. And she just makes everyone look better. She makes Daly look so much better, you know, just you'd be wrapping her up in cotton wool. In fact, if I was Rachel Daly, I would be minding her. She'd be in my house, wrapped up. I'd be cooking her dinner, making sure she was absolutely perfect. She makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously West Ham, their run of form is not very good. I know they're a young squad, but you know, it's not good times for them. Everton as well, they would have expected to get a home win against Bristol. They drew 2-2, and Leicester drew with Spurs, which keeps Leicester in 7th place. I mean, at this stage of the season, I think from where they were last year, that's, you know, again, another strong start has stood to them, as it has with Liverpool. Was there any other highlights from those games, Emma? No,
I think you covered it. I mean, Leicester shouldn't be in the bottom with their signings. I do expect more for them. They've got a world-class keeper, and that's all they need, right? Kept them up last season, and she was absolutely brilliant. And you know, they've added to it, and I think Kirk has done quite well with his recruitment. No, apart from that, it's great to see the Irish. Would love to see more of them, get, you know, our younger players get on, and something you spoke about at the start of the show. But yeah, I thought it was a great week. It's getting better and better, I think, every week. Who's gonna get relegated? Who knows? Who's gonna win? You've no idea. At Christmas, we always have an idea. We're going to say Chelsea, but they're going to drop points. They will drop points.
Well, we'll look forward to getting those predictions at Christmas, and we look forward to the podcast next week. Emma Byrne, thank you so much for joining the COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball in association with Cadbury, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. We will speak to you all next week.
The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.